Hello and welcome to Hewnlife Talks. I'm Olamide Ayodele, your host, and today we're going to be talking about the all-important subject of marriage. I'm brimming with excitement to be talking about marriage with a seasoned marriage expert. He is a long-standing pastor. He's the senior pastor of Chapel of Life Church in London. He is an author, he is a poet, he is a premarital counselor, he is a marriage counselor. He is the pastor, Omawumi Efueye, popularly and fondly known as Pastor O. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you so much, Lamide. That was so impressive. I wasn't even sure you were talking about me there.
Right. So we've talked about the men's roles and responsibilities, and I'm glad you went into the biological differences and how, you know, the biological makeup of the man enables him to be able to do some things better than the woman. And I remember saying that women should just let men be men as well, and that makes them feel good, doesn't it? So what are my roles as the woman in a marriage? What's my purpose in the home, and what are my defined roles, or even if they're not defined, what are the traditional roles expected of a woman in a marriage?
All right, let's talk about the expectations first, you know, and let's define the roles. The first thing is that the woman was created to help and support her husband. So that's what a woman must do. She must help and support him in everything that he does. And remember, I gave the illustration about when my wife was earning more than I was. You see, if I want to carry this chair, all right, and I invite you to help me carry it, okay, I will tell you how much help I need. So I lift the back, you lift the front. Now, if I sprain my hands and I cannot carry it, you know, as much as I would, I say more of the weight is going to be on you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if I break my hand and I cannot actually lift anything, then you are doing all the carry, even though it's my responsibility. So that's how she helps and supports her husband to the degree to which he needs help and support. Okay. And that help and support is financial. It also has to do with decision making. Every decision that a man makes will affect the family. It's critical. It's going to affect you. It's going to affect your children.
Yeah.
So you have to be a part of that process. And people always ask me, what if my husband is about to make a decision, he needs my input and he doesn't ask for it? You still have to very graciously give it in the spirit of meekness and humility. And because it's important that, remember I talked about the quality of decisions being based on information. So men can see things from one perspective, women can see it from another. By the time we put it together, we can see the big picture. So if I make my decisions and I don't involve my wife, I lose a lot of the times the micro aspect of decision making. Because men tend to be macro, big picture oriented, high level thinking, ultimate goals, goal oriented. That's what we are. But women tend to look at the fine details of how do I get there. So if we use an illustration of a picnic, we decide as a family we want to go on a picnic. As far as I'm concerned, once we say we're going on a picnic, what day? Saturday the 12th. Okay, good. How much do you think we'll need for that picnic? £200. Where? Hyde Park.
That's all the information
as far as it's concerned, picnic done. He doesn't realize that Hyde Park is a huge place. So what part of Hyde Park are we going to be in? Are we going to sit in a gazebo, or are we going to sit outside? Are we going to have mats, or are we going to have chairs? What kind of food are we going to have? You know, how do we get there? Are we driving there? Are we going by train? You know, the man doesn't think of all those things. He just thinks of it's done and everything. And if you left it to him on the day of the picnic, he'll suddenly start, you know, like a deer in headlights. He'll just be totally confused.
Yes.
But then at the same time, you see, when the woman focuses on the micro things, you know, it's the man's forte to look at the big picture. So, but we come together, and every decision has big picture implementation. So she has to contribute to that. And then a wife also she should submit to her husband's loving leadership. And this word submission has been abused, and people are afraid of the word submission. But submission is not. It's actually an area of trust that a woman must embark on. But submission must be predicated on unconditional love. In other words, the reason a woman can submit to her husband is because he loves her unconditionally.
Absolutely.
If he's going to use her and abuse her, then it's going to be difficult for her to submit in that environment. So this is a picture of how submission works. When you look at a football team, for example, there are 11 players, usually of fairly equal ability, but there is a captain. And all the other 11, though some of them may even be earning more than that captain in that team, when the captain says, according to the pattern that we want, this is what is expected, everybody submits to him.
That, yes.
Okay? Strictly Come Dancing. I had a daughter who took up dancing recently, and she's a very independent person, and she said, wow, dancing has really taught me the art of submission.
Wow.
She says, because you cannot be a good dancer until you're ready to, as a woman, to submit to the man, and as a man to take
lead.
the lead.
Wow.
Okay, so that's a picture of submission. And another illustration I would like to use, just to put it in, why I'm taking time to talk about submission is because it's a thorny topic, and women are like, hey, nobody's gonna, ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do, you know. But no, beyond that, it's look at a board of directors. You have 5 directors. Each of them could lead that organization. But what happens is the chairman, chief executive has a casting vote. So even though we're all equal and we all have one vote, when a decision needs to be made and we have a hung verdict, the chairman, his vote carries it. So that's it, you know. So that's essentially what the man's role is. He's not superior to his wife. I started off by saying that they're both equal, and if you start off not recognizing that, then your marriage is doomed. But you also have to recognize that if we're driving in a car, both of us can drive, but both of us don't drive. One person has to handle the steering.
Yes.
Somebody has to. You can't have 2 captains in one ship.
ship.
All right. So, and captaincy is not superiority. Captaincy is just roles. Somebody has that role, and you know.
It's a role.
Yeah.
And that role helps navigate
both of us to the destination that is to both our advantage.
Yes.
So you see, the pilot and the chief flight engineer, you know, they don't fight over who's going to handle the thing,
hand in hand.
because they are working hand in hand to get the plane there. And I don't really care who piloted the plane, as long as we get there safely. All right, and so that's how it should be with the marriage. It's not so much about who's in charge as to what they're doing, what each person's role is, yes. And then that respect and that mutual respect. If the man, this is the instruction that God gives to the man. He says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it by the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. He says, he that loves his wife loves himself. No man ever yet hates his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes himself. That's what a man does. So that's how a man should treat his wife, as though he's treating himself. If you love your wife, you love yourself. So you honor her, you love her, you sacrifice for her, you give your best for her. You see, my wife knows I will give her anything. I'll do anything for her. So she submits to me because she knows that. So submission is born out of an understanding of agape love, unconditional love.
Absolutely.
And unconditional love demands the submission because it knows that I'm going to die for you anyway. I'll lay down my life for you. And the wife will, I follow you anyway because I know you'll die for me.
It's trust as well.
It's trust.
If I trust you,
I can give you my life.
Yes, if I trust you to, like my husband does the accounting, so he manages the company accounts and everything. So I trust him to pay my taxes. I trust him to.
Yes, you don't go and look over his shoulder and say,
no.
Did you pay? You didn't pay? What did you do with it? Did you put some of it aside?
And that's submission, because I'm submitting that aspect of my life, you know, the money aspect to his governance, so to speak.
Yes. So there's that, you know, helping, submitting. Then there is respecting and honoring your husband. You make a commitment to do nothing that does not always elevate him. You never denigrate him. You never speak evil of him. You never talk down to him. You never, you respect and honor him. You venerate him. You esteem him. You praise him. What I'm just taking words from Ephesians 5:31 from the Amplified Version, where it talks about let every woman see that she so respects her husband. You esteem him highly. You put him above everything else. And
I do, in relation to just honoring your husband. Biologically as well, men are created with a special sense, which is that we call it their ego.
Yeah.
That needs, that stroking and that brushing and elevating.
Yeah.
And because they're created as such, I see it in my sons. They prefer to have their ego stroked. They prefer that respect, even. They prefer it to food.
Yeah.
They prefer
respect is so important to a man.
It is.
It is critical to a man, just like love is critical to a woman.
Yes.
You see, that's why the Bible never tells a woman to love her husband, because it's natural to a woman. But it says respect him. And it doesn't say to the man, respect your wife, because respect is natural to a man. A man will respect his boss, respect anybody that's over him. But that issue of love, that's an area of his weakness. So you see, respect for a woman, love for a man. And once you can both play that, then the balance
would be there. Yes. Wow. So in your book, Different by Design, the chapter that deals with the in-laws, I really enjoyed. There's so many exciting, just funny examples that you've given of, mother-in-law issues or, relationship issues with the in-laws.
Yeah.
And you actually did a letter.
Yes.
To the parents.
Yes, I did.
As, the pastor,
Yeah.
basically explaining certain things. Can you explain what the purpose of that letter is?
Yes. What I discovered is this, we, especially coming from a very patriarchal society, which most Black and Afro-Caribbean societies are. They have strong male-dominant figures. Yeah. Okay. I realized that people cannot. There are certain things that they want to say to their parents that they were never able to say because of the authoritarianism. Okay. So what I've tried to do is try to put the thoughts that I think a young person about to get married would have. There's certain things they would like to say to their parents that they may not have the opportunity to say. So I've written their thoughts down.
Wow.
And try to also address some common problems. You see, many families, they are under very strict parental control. Yes. So even when they're getting married, the parents are loath to release that control. So it is critical that as you get married, that control has to be broken. I know of a family, it's a very large family of about 10 children with their spouses, and every year they all still go on holiday together because their father insists. To deviate from that is treason, high treason. Treason of the highest order. So everybody, so whatever you are doing,
including the grandkids,
everybody, we all go on holiday together. Now, that has its benefits. You see, a couple of years ago, my mother took all the family and we all went on a cruise together. But that was because we chose to go on the cruise, not because we were forced, not because it's a family tradition that can never be broken. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You see, that has to be broken. You see, in that kind of family, as you're getting married, that father has to read that kind of letter and see that you have to leave these people, give them an opportunity to grow, to make their mistakes, to learn and everything. And so that's what that letter is designed to do, to address certain things, mistakes that parents could make in the lives of their children.
Yeah, so basically stopping any issue in its tracks before it even gets to that point. And, you spoke a lot about, the in-laws and the outlaws. And what tips do you have for a couple who have very different cultural backgrounds and families and, in relation to the in-laws, what tips do you have for them to live harmoniously with each other and with their family as well?
Communication is the key. You see, a lot of times, that's why, again, premarital preparation is critical. I need to know your family. You need to know mine before we get married. What are the traditions of your family? Because when you marry into a family. Oh, yes. What are the things that my people do? Which is, again, brings us to that issue of backgrounds and experiences, All right? Now, once we understand that our families are different, our cultures are different, we're coming from different backgrounds, then we have to find a happy medium. How do we live with this? How do I live with this new lifestyle? And how do you live with my new lifestyle? And so now that agreement must be between you and I as spouses. That's where the agreement comes. Then we pass that information to our families. So this is how my husband lives. This is how my wife lives. And we've found a happy balance. So you coming into the equation, this is how you're going to treat them. You don't let outsiders determine how you because it's going to break your relationship.
So if I give an example, if my husband and I decided that, okay, our parents would come to visit and they would only probably come and stay for maybe a few weeks.
Yes.
And my mom
now
calls
a few weeks,
says,
that's dangerous. A few weeks is very vague.
Okay.
If you tell someone they can stay for a few weeks, their definition of a few weeks may be 8 months.
Yes, I was just going to say, so if my grandma, for example, said, oh, I need to come and spend time with you, and I want to be with you for about 10 months.
Well, that's now, you talk to your husband about it. Is your husband comfortable with your grandmother coming to be with you for 10 months? If your husband is happy and you're happy, and it works, then that's fine. If your husband says, 10 months, you crazy? Then, okay, so how long, what then you negotiate, you to and fro. And then if he says, well, 3 months at the most, then you say to grandma, 3 months, my husband, cannot, you have to be upfront. We cannot, or if you don't want to throw your husband under the bus, say, we cannot accommodate you for more than 3 months because of the children, because of this, because of that, or, so that way. So everything must be defined.
Yes.
One of the things I said in the book is this, that nobody has a right to visit you from any part of the world without a return ticket.
They can't come and stay permanently.
They can't come and stay. And anybody who's coming, you must know how long they're coming for, and it must be agreed, and so
where we have a relationship, a marriage that has already been, you've already had intervention or interference from this mother-in-law, the husband's mom and the wife's mom, and the marriage has as a result been almost severed, maybe
yes.
they're now separated. How can you resolve that?
Well, the first thing is your relationship is the most important issue. So solve your problems between yourselves. Find out where you went wrong. Put those things right. Then set the new rules. One of the reasons why those things get out of hand is because there were no rules of engagement. So everybody, the Bible says, in those days there was no king in Israel and everybody did what was right in his own eyes. And that's because there was no rule. Once there's the rule of law, then everybody knows these are the boundaries and everything. It may be uncomfortable for some people, especially in families where, there's just that open door policy. You see, like in my family, we had this open door policy. Anybody could come and stay. We had relations just come in, just wander in with their suitcase and stay. And it was no biggie for me. And I grew up like that. And then I came to my wife's family, and my wife's family is very nuclear, very English kind of family where it's, the immediate family. And you have to give long notice if you are coming and all that. And so it was very strange to me, and my system was very strange to my wife, like, really? People can just come and leave, like that? And I freely opened our house like that because that was what I was used to.
And that would have made her very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. And in fact, it caused us a lot of problems in the early days.
So how did you set boundaries?
It's communication. It's like, this isn't working for me. It's not working for us. It's affecting our relationship. So let's set the boundaries. Let's decide what is what and everything. So now we talk about everything. We agree together. We look at it. What's your view? Sometimes we have heated debates, hot arguments on issues because we are coming from different perspectives on it. But in the end, we find a happy balance and then we agree. Sometimes I'm not too happy with the conclusion. Sometimes she's not too happy with the conclusion. But we find something that works for both of us and ultimately works for the marriage. Wow.
One thing I'm going to say is the workbook.
Yes.
The workbook, Different by Design. I read the workbook and it's almost like you've read the book and then you're going back now to apply the principles, test yourself that you've actually, understood the principles, the points, and then you take some tests and then you do that jointly with your spouse.
Yes.
Have you had a lot of positive feedback on the workbook?
Yes, we have. We've used it quite extensively even at our retreats. Because the whole idea is, you see, it's very easy to read a book and, yeah, did you get anything out of it? Yeah, I like
At
that
the point
part
you're
about,
reading it,
yes, it's very exciting. And
but
then
when you
thereafter
drop
you
it,
drop it,
you might
off you
forget,
go. Oh,
yes.
yeah, and you just, I remember this, that, and the other. But when you sit down with the workbook and you are having to fill in gaps, answer questions,
Go back,
you know, it helps you to internalize certain things. But the last part of the workbook of every chapter, what we do is we go through, we put illustrations, examples, exercises, and everything. Then the last part, we have 2 sections. We have what we call the individual section, where you sit with the book and you answer questions for yourself and you do exercises by yourself. Then we have the interactive section where you sit with your spouse, and then those same issues which you have looked at on your own and he has looked at on his own, you now come together and you now answer questions and do exercises. And for example, I love one about communication where you sit with your spouse and you're talking, and then one of you walks out while the other is talking, and the other just continues talking, and you walk out for about 3 minutes, and then you come back and he's continued talking, or she's continued talking, and then you now discuss the issue. Okay, how did you feel when I walked away while you were talking? Now, what did you get when you were going? What did you miss? What did you catch? So it's just it makes it, first of all, makes it exciting, makes it interactive,
yes, it does make
and then
it
makes
interactive.
It makes it sink in. As a lifestyle rather than just...
It's almost like you've not even almost, reading the book and using the workbook, you've been on a marriage course.
Yeah.
And you're applying the principles now, and you almost can't get a certificate if you've done the workbook.
If you've done the workbook,
that's how
it.
I felt. I said,
yeah.
I think I need a certificate.
I think I said, come on, achievement. Yes, indeed.
One thing I'd like to ask you, Pastor, does someone need to be a member of Chapel of Life Church to attend your premarital counseling?
No, not at all. For me, it's a mission, it's a vision, it's a vocation, it's a calling. It's something that I feel very, very, very strongly about. So I do counsel people from everywhere, really. It's usually by referral. People, send people to me.
I was referred to you in 2006. You might not remember, but I did come to see you.
I do remember, yes. So no, it's not church-based. It's a calling. It's something that it's a pastoral calling. It's something that I feel that I need to do to address a very, very gaping void, a yawning chasm in society.
And so many people have spoken to that you've helped them heal their marriages or even bring them back together. They can't speak highly enough of you, and this is a legacy, I believe, that you have. That name, preserving marriages, healing marriages, just making people hold on to their vows is attached now to your name in my circle of influence, and I'm sure with so many other people. Well,
it was born of
as well.
Almost failing in many areas of what I'm now teaching. So I just thought it's not necessary for people. In the book, I say a wise man learns from other people's experience. A fool learns from his. So contrary to the old adage, experience is not always the best teacher. Other people's experience is the best teacher. So I just feel that it's something that people don't need to go through certain things, because the Bible actually gives us an understanding. It says in 1 Corinthians, it talks about being comforted with the comfort wherewith you have been comforted, so that you can comfort others. You see, so the fact that you've gone through stuff, I believe it also helps you define purpose. I've come to understand very clearly that one of the reasons God put me upon the earth is this ministry, to make sure that I am taking from what I have learned to bless other people. Purpose. I need to know that I was put here to help other people. Why was I put here to help other people? Because I've been through stuff that nearly destroyed my marriage. And so, and then if in the world of automobiles, for example, if 50% of Volkswagen cars were defective, Volkswagen will be in serious trouble.
They will be dead.
Yes,
they'll be gone.
they'll
They'll
be
be
gone.
forgotten by
But
now.
that's
Yes.
what's happening with marriages. 50% of marriages are ending in divorce, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it's okay." No, it's not
Everybody's,
okay.
you know, just
It's not
sitting
okay.
down
It's
and
not
just
okay. No,
not really
we will
thinking about
fight for the families. We will fight for marriage, and then we'll get most importantly, we'll get the partners, the spouses, to fight for their marriages. Begin to say no to divorce. You know, divorce is a scourge. You see, when the Bible talks about, it says a man will join to his wife, will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. That word cleave is to be cemented to. It's like taking two bricks, individual bricks, and then cementing them together as you would do on a wall. Now, once you cement two bricks together, you can never get them back in their original state. Never.
No, never.
You either destroy both, you break them to pieces, or one takes from the other, and that's what divorce does. That's why God hates divorce. It doesn't hate divorce because it doesn't want people it wants people to suffer and remain in an unhappy marriage. It hates divorce because every time you break away from a marriage, something is being taken from you. And if there are children, oh my goodness.
So
they
nobody
suffer.
benefits from a
Nobody
divorce.
benefits from a divorce, except the lawyers.
Except the lawyers. Pastor, thank you so much. I could go on and on and on, but I know that we're now short for time. And what I would say is this book, I would recommend it to everyone, Different by Design. It can be bought on Amazon, and if you just Google it, it's easy to find the book. So thank you so much, Pastor, for coming today. I am so delighted. I feel so blessed, and I know that our viewers have been blessed by this segment today as well. Thank you so much.